following the complaints filed by aspirants in the just concluded primaries. The ruling comes after the party settled some of the most contested primaries, including that of Starehe and Kamukunji parliamentary seats involving minor commander and, of course, musician Charles Jagua, and Kamukunji MP Yusuf Hassan and former MP Simon Bugwa. Allow me to bring in Nick Kwambua, my colleague, who is at Jubilee headquarters. Nick, good afternoon. What's happening where you are? Nick, can you hear me? Can Nick hear me? Yes. Okay. Nick, good afternoon. Good to see you. I know you're at the Jubilee Party headquarters, the Appeals Tribunal. What's happening where you are?
Thank you very much, Linda. My cameraman just said to move a bit because it is a bit drizzling right here. And as you can hear on the background...
Nick, okay, listen. First of all, give me a few minutes to try and sort out your microphone. The sound coming from your end is not very good. So give me a few minutes to try and see if the technical team can fix that. Then we'll come back to you. Nick Kwambua at the Jubilee headquarters for us, trying to figure out what's happening. Remember, Monday, 4 p.m. is the deadline for independent candidates to be accepted to run as independent candidates by the the register of political parties, and of course IEBC as well. So in studio have Hesbon Owila, political communications scholar, and Joshua Kipto, advocate of the High Court. So just before we get into this discussion, Leader of Majority Eden Duale had a specific appeal to aspirants who have lost in the just concluded party primaries. I'm hoping you can listen to that before we have this conversation. Okay, so Duale, will play that for you in a bit, but Duale basically was telling party aspirants not to go the independent way, saying whichever way, he is so confident that Jubilee will win. But the most interesting bit for me is that we have about 2,000 independent candidates who will run if they're all cleared in the August 8th general election. What are your thoughts about that number? That is probably the biggest number we've seen in the history of this country.
I think, first, I think Jubilee should be more afraid of this independent candidate.
Why?
For the simple reason that, you know, Jubilee is a party, it's not a coalition, and there are no affiliate parties. There are two or three parties supporting Jubilee, meaning that any candidate leaving Jubilee to go as an independent is doing so for the first reason, as a protest to what the Jubilee process has been. And then secondly, he's doing so to ensure that he remains relevant, you know, because 5 years is such a long time. You want to be in the political process and probably try and win. But having said that, for independent candidates, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult, especially for independent candidates who until now have not been cleared by their political parties, because the first process is you need to resign as a member of a political party, and as you can see, a few political parties are actually trying. You need to resign.
You need to come up with your symbol.
You need 2,000 signatures.
2,000.
Yeah, 2,000 for a senator, 1,000 for an MP, an MCA. I don't know why the threshold for governors is only 500, but the whole process is a lot more difficult for guys who are still waiting for the verdict, and I think that is where Jubilee is going to find it difficult, because by the time they're going to give out those verdicts, there are two things that will happen. They'll have enough independent candidates who will protest against Jubilee, and then secondly, they'll have enough independent candidates who will gang up together for the simple reason that there are no other affiliate parties to join or to support somebody who is still in the Jubilee side of the divide, and all this will impact negatively on Jubilee. Yes.
Kipto?
Now, when it comes to the question of independent candidates, let's not forget the basis of that. We can't say it is the biggest we've had because this is the first time we're having independent candidates. What we had previously was a plethora of parties. It was a question of...
They're called briefcase.
In fact, I really feel for them. It was a good business time for them because every time elections and like the major parties always had flawed nomination. Yeah. So the next day, each briefcase party will always shop for aspirants. Now that's out of the equation. So the alternative that came to be was the independents. Why? Because for the parties, the IEBC gazetted their names way before nominations. Like a week before nominations, each party's list had already been gazetted. So there was no way you could jump from one party to the other. The only window of opportunity, I think, the parliamentarians were crafty in a way to ensure that the window period given for independent candidates is 3 months before general election. That's why you have them having around 6th or 8th of May. Unlike for the political parties, theirs was a bit earlier. So that 1-2 week has given them the window. But importantly, the only reason we have so many independent candidates across the divide is because of shambolic party primaries. In both major coalitions, Jubilee, on the first day, they were unable to conduct their party primaries.
And
that had an impact. So Monday, Tuesday, they tried. I would give Jubilee credit for trying to undo the mess, which, let's say, 75% mess was kind of undone. However, you would understand politics being a process thing. The 3-4 days change the perception possibly here there. Like, I know of Rift Valley, for example, the perception was someone somewhere was trying to rig out and to try and ensure the establishment remain. And that was enough to have Monday, Tuesday, where the newcomers were coming in. That's why most were thrown out. So by virtue of shambolic party primaries, you have a bigger number of independent candidates across both parties. And the main reason would be the voters still the same. And the voters spoke out. In fact, quite a number of those candidates were victims of injustice. Even if I use ODM, you have a case where the purported winner was never given a certificate. So what happens in that case? Independence or going as an independent candidate offers the solution. So if you ask me, the phenomena is because of a problem. It's an answer to a problem. The problem is our party primaries were not as expected. So the independent candidature offers a room for that. But importantly, I think we should just need to create that perception among voters that the main consideration is the person. Beyond the party, we should also look at the person. So that if the party fails us, if the party doesn't take who we want, we can still vote for the independent.
Are we at a point as Kenyans where people look at...
we are getting there. For example, are you not surprised that in most counties, the incumbents were thrown out like never before?
Oh, yeah.
So that tells you the voter is speaking something. Let me even give an example that I've been using all over. The Nandi County, the governor was number 4. Not number 2, not number 3, he was number 4. The incumbent senator, Stephen Sang, came from nowhere. In fact, I remember 3-4 days before the election, his name was not appearing in the newspapers as a front runner. He ended up flowing and he got a wide... Now, look at MCAs. Across the country, 3/4 of the MCAs were thrown out. So that tells you something, the voter is communicating. So don't rule out the independents. If you ask me to predict, I can give 30 MPs.
Whatever that is telling us is just something that we can infer. Because from where I see it, well, Nandi stands out as a case study for the simple reason that you look at the people they voted in and you're thinking they must have thought through because this is a young team, very energetic. But there are instances where you have this feeling that people are voted out without due consideration to the guys who are coming in. And to say that independent candidates, probably are going to vie as independent candidates because of the flawed process is probably basically just a bit of it. I think some of them are going for independent run for the simple reason that the whole process was flawed to the extent of giving them clear indications that if IBC is going to conduct this election, they're not going to conduct the election the way the parties did. And if it is flawless and efficient, there's a chance of winning. I'll give an example.
In my listen, just before you give that example, I think the question that is on the minds of so many Kenyans is what kind of chance do they stand against the major political parties? Let's listen to Leader Majority Eden Duale and just figure out what he had to say.
Our National Election Board and our appeals tribunal are handling diligently the areas where we had complaints, and I am sure in the shortest time possible they will give the way forward. They will either ask for a repeat of certain elections, they will make decisions based on the evidence and facts provided by the various political candidates. Independence is provided for in the law, but I am sure in our strongholds, the party that will carry the day will be the Jubilee Party. We are not going to deny anybody to go for independence, but the party that will carry the day will be the Jubilee Party in our strongholds in Rift Valley.
What are the chances, independent candidates?
Chances because of this. Politics is not a one-day event. New alliances have been made up. For example, if you had a party primary where you have 8 candidates and one was declared the winner, which according to the other aspirants, they considered it to be unfair and possibly voters agree with the same, then you have the 7 aspirants deciding to back one as an independent. That's already a big mess.
Yeah,
I can use, for example, I think Roysambu constituency, where I think the incumbent, I'm not sure, but I think the incumbent was being issued with a certificate, and the other 8 or 9 aspirants had decided to
Support
back one person who will go as an independent candidate. So that's where I'm saying I can give a figure of around 30 MPs. And that will create a narrative of that voters are going towards individuals, slowly by slowly.
I think it will create a narrative that the future of our democracy is in, efficient running of our political parties. Because if you have more than 30 go to parliament, then it tells you that political parties must put their houses in order going forward. But then what I was saying is, I'm not very optimistic because being in that group of independent candidates is a very lonely place to be. And you're going to fight twice as much as you'd fight if you're in a political party, because one, you're going to look for votes from the people, and then secondly, you're going to try and mitigate the effect of a political party, which will definitely be supporting their candidate. And anywhere where they're going to have a strong independent candidate, I think the party machinery will invest more.
But, but the party leader...
Hold on, people. We need to move on. So, Jubilee Party, of course, we heard from President Uhuru Kenyatta as well, and he was addressing aspirants who wanted to run on Jubilee Party. And he was saying, he was specifically addressing losers, telling them we need to stick together. There will be something for everyone. And Jubilee-affiliated Frontier Alliance Party yesterday endorsed President Uhuru Kenyatta. Let's take a look at what happened.
Uhuru Kenyatta akasema nini? Tuna support nani? Tuna support nani? Tuna support nani? There you are. The resolution is made, and I want to assure you ya kwamba utapata ile kura inahitajika kurudisha wewe kwa mula ya pili kwa rais ya nchi yetu tukufu ya Kenya.
Na mimi sina shaka tukiungana mkono vile tumeungana leo, tutafanya mengi kubadilisha maisha ya wananchi wa Marsabit County na hata county zile zingine ambazo ziko represented hapa. Lakini kitu cha muhimu hata kulipo maendeleo ni amani.
Okay. So Uhuru Kenyatta, they are getting all the support probably he needs before we get to August 8th general election. But they also talk about not really accepting small political parties. I mean, when they're consolidating Jubilee Party, what changed, Hezbollah?
I think, you realize that the moment you are in a political party and the support within the political party is not enough to create the perception that you want, you will attract all the support that you can get. And politics, as it were in Kenya, people have realized that political parties are very important vehicles in the political process. So there are a number of people who will create, and Jubilee is taking advantage of that, which any other political party would do, by having as many political parties in these frontier areas supporting them. But I think having said that, Jubilee still has a lot to do, because if you look at the way they handled their nomination, which were a lot more credible than most of the political parties, despite the fact that it failed to kick off. Now, because all the grievances that the aspirants in Jubilee had were channeled through the National Elections Board, it is now coming back to haunt them, because they have so many cases that they have to solve, and it doesn't matter what the outcome is. One party is always going to be aggrieved. And in some instances, even more parties are going to be aggrieved. And I can tell you for free that most of the people who are going to be aggrieved are technically not going to be supportive of the Jubilee party.
Kipto, what are your
We can't
thoughts?
sound the same. That tells you the flip-flop. The Jubilee, as you said, when they were coming up, they said no chance for a smaller party.
Yeah, they actually
Jubilee,
folded up.
Do you remember when the president and the deputy president went to Kirinyaga and Martha Karua was under significant pressure?
Yes.
That even the voters were chanting, and you know, the deputy president said it, that we like you, we want you,
Chairman
but
Yoshida.
just come to Jubilee. So the reason why you've seen them climbing down is the reality of the fact. That's why I'm saying when you rule out independent candidates, you're doing it on the basis of not understanding the political dynamics. Look here, the virtue that the political parties were unable to conduct credible primary elections and fallouts are there. In fact, there is so limited time to heal. There's so limited time. The original idea of doing political primaries 2-3 months before the deadline would have helped them. So that within this time, they would have crafted kinda a deal. But imagine, by Sunday or Monday, they had to sort out 500 cases. Most of these aspirants, in fact, the reason you're seeing a backlog at the political parties registrar's office is because they realize it is pointless to wait for the for the tribunal to come up with a decision.
So just
that
run
tells
as an
you something.
independent.
So when you see the president going for the frontier development, in fact, I'm sure the next step they will do, they will try court the Mandela group, because remember the Gare Council of Elders had endorsed a lineup, and when Jubilee didn't give them a direct ticket, they went for a different party. Economic empowerment something. Now such parties Jubilee will be going for after understanding that these guys have influence, they have clout. So they have chosen to forego and to even, for example, throw away the Marsabit gubernatorial seat. They don't have a problem if it's not a Jubilee guy. But the president is going for his vote. He said, you vote for me. How you guys will sort out down there. And the same will go even to the strongholds. What will prevent now the same narrative flowing into central Kenya, where the independent candidates and these other parties will say, you saw what happened. You know, it's easy to tell the voter, you saw what happened, and it was unfair. So we are here, all of us support the same. And in fact, I should also pick even for the ODM. The party leader, when being interviewed by a media station yesterday, said he will support ODM candidates, but has no problem with the independent candidates. That tells you something. To consolidate and have the proper turnout, he will say all these are my children, though the official one is this, and I prefer the party one, but msikatai wote. The basis of that also is that the presidential aspirant also wants the turnout. You get a turnout when the competition is significant. Like, for example, in Luo Nyanza, if the perceived losers end up having the independent candidature and have that narrative that you saw what happened, elections never happen, and we are here now to compete, the same interest that was there in the party primaries will be transferred. And like, if there were no such candidature, you would find a dejected loser going away with his supporters saying, we don't even have to vote.
There's no point.
Yeah. So it's a win-win, and independent candidates will create a shocker for this election.
But then that presents another problem for Jubilee.
What problem?
What about the parties that essentially had to fold to join Jubilee Party? Back then, you told us you would not accept smaller parties. So now you are sort of working with them.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem for Jubilee, that the parties that you told to close shop and join Jubilee and find themselves in a situation where they perceive the nomination process to have flawed them unfairly, they only have one option.
What?
NASA, yes. They have NASA as the only option, that they go independent as a protest, and then they support NASA. And let me say this, there's an example I wanted to give you, that the basis on which an individual should go independent should be anchored on solid ground that shows that by going independent, I have a chance of winning. But most of them, you know, you base your decision to go independent on a primary that attracted only 3,000 in a constituency. And you're saying that in my strongholds, you know, they didn't deliver ballot papers and stuff like that. What if they deliver? Only 3,000 people showed up and you got 1,000, your competitor got 3,000. The margin of error is so small that you cannot project and say, now I will win.
I will win this way.
But there are situations that I know people have played, like in my native Suna East, I know for sure that the candidate who is going...
How do you know?
I know, because I was involved in the nomination process.
Okay.
The candidate who is going independent had actually projected way before the results were declared, because in his strongholds, the National Elections Board was sending 150 ballot papers, and then they were told that what you need to do is just photocopy these ballot papers. Then at the tallying center, the returning officer is saying, these ones are rejected. Why are they photocopies? At that point, what do you do? And then your people are telling you, we wanted to vote for you. We did not vote because there were no ballot papers. Okay. There you have a basis.
So the fight is on to get as many people as possible to vote for either party, Jubilee, NASA. And Deputy President William Ruto has asked Kamba and Western Kenya Jubilee leaders to play a leading role in marketing the Jubilee Party manifesto to voters in their respective areas ahead of the August general election. Ruto said it was the responsibility of leaders to sell the party's manifesto to Kenyans at the grassroots level because they were well placed to do so, addressing a delegation of leaders from Ukambani and Western Kenya who had separately called on him. Let's listen in. So you have Deputy President William Ruto meeting leaders from Luya, Kamba, and this is significant. Why? Two of the core principals in NASA actually come from the Western region.
Yes,
you have
yes.
Musalia Mudavadi and you have Moses Wetangula. Do you think Ruto will make inroads? Do you think Jubilee will make inroads in Western?
A quick answer to that. Jubilee is coming on a defensive or on a weak position. They are an incumbent regime. An incumbent regime is judged by what they have done. So when he says selling a manifesto, you know, selling a manifesto if you've not been in power is easy than when you're in power.
Yeah.
So to fight that narrative, they'll have a terrible time. In my estimation, I think it was important to meet those leaders, the Ukambani and the
Luya.
Western voters,
Yeah.
just whatever the leaders, just to re-energize them. Because I see, if, in my opinion, after NASA announced a candidate and the whole team remained, it was kind of a shocker even on those leaders, like they are clutching on straws. For example, if you don't expect NASA to get votes in Central, then why do you expect the same votes from Western? And Western is one area that I think Jubilee ignored for long. It was their best chance to get it the last 3-4 years, but there have been false starts. For example, if you're to go to Bungoma, their pet project has always been Webuye, the pan paper mills. How many times have they launched and relaunched the project? Almost 4 or 5 times, but as we speak, it's not operating. So it's
Yeah, we
easy
actually
for the
did a story on it.
opposition can come and just tell the people, look here, these guys have played you for 4 years. Why should you listen to them? That's why I would understand the need to call the Lusakas and everyone and tell them, keep the faith. Because despite whatever the rough terrain, keep the faith. Ukambani is another case. There was a feeling that if Musyoka is not a candidate, then it will give a lifeline to those candidates.
Alfred
And-
Mutua's chap-chap?
but there was Alfred Mutua and the other Jubilee wing. But shocker on them is that Musyoka accepted to be a running mate and has solidly been there the same. Have you realized, for example, Nyenze has gone mute all of a sudden? Because the ground has not complained as per what the leaders expected. So I would think the Deputy President was trying to give them a prep talk or a team talk and tell them, keep the faith, keep the faith. But it will be very difficult for them. And the basis being a government is judged by performance.
And that
How
is
do you
the
sell a
biggest headache.
manifesto on paper if the voter tells you no? For example, economic empowerment. The same Jubilee government came on the basis that never again shall we buy unga at more than 100. So how comes we are doing at 140? Now, how do you tell a voter, a rural voter that?
And I think maybe let me just add that a government is judged on performance, and to a large extent, that performance is always attending to failures. That's why we are talking about the pan paper mills and not Mumias, which was bailed out by the same government. And I think Jubilee needs to put this into perspective, that it doesn't matter. The public right now is conscious of what is going on, and they probably know that there are few leaders who will masquerade as professionals from these regions where there are other principles, go to State House and make very good pep talks and say that we are behind your government and so on and so forth. But that, to me, is missing the right strategy.
What is the right strategy?
Yes, they have a portal, and the onus is on Jubilee right now, and the operatives working for Jubilee to ensure that each and every Kenyan understands how that portal has had an impact on the ground, and explain the extent to which, given another 5 years, they are going to make the life of Kenyans better, which for me, I think is a tall order. And that is where the focus should be. But picking a few, individuals from the corporate world, having tete-a-tete with them, probably will just create the perception that these guys are kicking their last kicks.
Even the portal itself, there's something that he's mentioned that Jubilee should maybe do.
What?
How about bringing the portal out there?
Exactly.
Because I saw a comment on Twitter which I think would define the narrative about the portal. Some commentator somewhere mentioned that I wish someone can take me and live inside that portal.
I saw that. I want to live inside that portal.
I want that life inside that portal. That tells you the disconnect. And there's something interesting about this 2017 voter. The 2017 voter is more than willing. They are in a mood to show you, look here, you can't lie to me, you can't tell me something wrong. So I would expect Jubilee operatives to change that narrative from just airing what the portal has, but rather go to the, like the deputy president is a good campaigner, he's a good mobilizer. Go to Western, go with those people, but let him be the one projecting the message and said, we promised this, we've done 1, 2, 3, we've not been able to do this because of this. But if you just let it be that the portal is out there and let the people see, you know, the voter will ask, why is it that what appears here is so rosy compared to what I feel every day?
And that's where my point is coming in, that from a communication...
Listen. First of all, before you go into this conversation, there's something that's happening in Kisumu. The Governor Jack Ranguma supporters have been protesting. They say they want him named the winner in the just concluded party primaries. Of course, the party primaries ended up with Anyang' Nyong'o, the senator, now being declared as the winner in the party primaries. But then there's still a contention as well with that. Let's listen into what they had to say. Okay, so we'll try and see if we can get for you the reaction that we're getting from Kisumu. Jack Ranguma lost in the party primaries. The Senator Peter Anyang' Nyong'o apparently carried the day. But the Political Parties Tribunal has also stopped ODM from naming Anyang' Nyong'o as the candidate, apparently, who won the party primaries. So there's still a back and forth on that, who exactly will get that ticket. But for now, allow me to cross over again to Kasarani Stadium, where Duncan Khaemba is standing by. It is a big day for Raila Odinga, opposition's chief. It's actually his crowning moment. Khaemba, what's going on?
What is going on, Mheshimiwa Ladwa? What is going on? Mulituambia saa 6, saa 4, saa 5, saa 6. Saizi imefika saa ngapi sasa? What is not happening?
Tayari mipango inaendelea. Kulikuwa na shida kwa sababu ya saa, lakini tayari delegates wako nje wanakaguliwa wakiingia. Nadhani hiyo process ndio imekuwa inaenda kwa pole, lakini sasa tumefungua milango zingine kuona kwamba process ya watu kuingia wanaingia sasa ndani kwa sana.
Nitakuuliza swali ambalo nauliza kila mmoja. ODM tena mara ya 3, mgombeaji akiwa ni yule yule. Mmepanga kikosi kipi ambacho sasa Wakenya watawaamini kwamba raundi hii hambahatishi?
Raundi hii hatubahatishi. Tayari unaona last election tulikuwa na 3. Sasa wameongezeka 2. Kuna Isaac Ruto kutoka Rift Valley, kuna Mudavadi kutoka mkoa wa Magharibi, na tayari kwanza mambo ya Mudavadi kuja katika NASA imetuongezea umaarifu na kuona kwamba kura za Western Province ziligawanyika wakati wa uchaguzi uliopita, na sasa kuna changes katika NASA, na nadhania hiyo itatupatia kura zaidi katika mwaka huu.
Wewe ni kigogo katika chama cha ODM. Mkenya ambaye anatazama saizi anauliza agenda ni ipi? Nauliza kila mwanachama wa ODM, what is the agenda right now?
Agenda zote zilishapeanwa na bado zitazinduliwa hapa, na kuna agenda mbalimbali ambazo tayari NASA imeweka na iko katika mitandao ambazo wameandika, na ni agenda safi sana. Mambo ya vijana, mambo ya maajira, mambo ya economy, mambo ya wamama, mambo ya wazee na mambo ya welfare ya wakazi wa Kenya, kwa sababu Wakenya kwa sasa wamefinyika sana, na hiyo ndio mambo inafanya sasa Wakenya wanaumia, na tunataka kuona serikali ya NASA inajali mpaka yule Mkenya wa pale mashinani, kwa sababu yule Mkenya wa mashinani ni muhimu sana, akiwa anaangaziwa welfare yake inaangaliwa.
Kwa hivyo unasema raundi hii mmeunda kikosi thabiti, kikosi matata?
Ya kikosi ambayo iko sasa ni kikosi kubwa sana, na hata unaona tayari watu wa Jubilee wameogopa na wamestuka, wameshindwa game plan yetu ni gani. Na bado kwa hizi siku ambazo zinakuja mbele, hasa hapa Nairobi, tumeweka mikakati mzuri ya kuona kwamba kura za Raila Amolo Odinga, kura za NASA zimekuwa mingi na zitaongezeka kulingana na zile kura zilikuwa hapo awali.
Kabla ni kuache, najua ulijipata taabani, lakini ulisema risasi ni moja. Raundi hii lazima watu wakae chonjo, kura isibiwe. Mumefanya mikakati ipi now that mulisema hii risasi ni moja na imewekwa sawasawa kwa bunduki?
Sasa risasi yetu iko sawasawa, na sio risasi ya bunduki ya kupiga watu kufa, ni risasi ya kura na kitambulisho. na unaona tumesema kura zihesabiwe katika eneo za ubunge ama katika constituency level. Hakuna mambo ya kubeba kura kupeleka Bomas ama kubeba kura kupeleka mahali pengine. Kura zikishapigwa zihesabiwe pale pale, ndio tuone nani amepata matokeo hii, na kwa sababu NASA itakuwa na tallying center yao, tutakuwa tunafuatilia hayo matokeo moja kwa moja kutoka kwa ward level, constituency level mpaka county level.
Asante sana mstahiki, utashuka kwa polepole. Linda, I'll also have to talk to Kipkorir Menjo and then Gladys Wanga. You've been kidogo tu tupande hapo. Thank you. From Rift Valley, people are asking, 2007, it was overwhelming. You are among the few with Henry Kosgei and Franklin Bett that remained with the ODM in 2013. 2017, who are the people that you can tell us that you've managed to bring back, maybe to add up into the numbers that we've been witnessing in Rift Valley as far as ODM support is concerned?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, this is the movement now is not about the leadership at the top. It is about the grassroots people. The majority now, who are the grassroots members of the party, or even who have been in other parties, have decided to cross over to ODM. Something you will not believe, but you wait, come the 8th of August. That's when you realize how things have shifted. One, when we have meetings, like the last rally when we had in Eldoret, that rally was meant for ODM members. But surprisingly, it was overwhelmingly attended by those who are even on the other side. And they were all saying, please, Papa, we need change. So what has happened is that the pressure members of the public are facing, particularly as far as the inflation is concerned, has made most of them to change their thinking about the party. And one crucial thing is that, when the Jubilee was seeking for votes, in their manifesto they said they were going to remove the banner and the signs saying, hakuna kazi, na kureplace na ile iko kazi. But you see now, as when we get many companies closing down, now we are having more signs saying there are no jobs. And they were saying they will grow the economy by a double digit. But now what is double digit is the inflation.
You are a strategist within ODM and a major stakeholder from Rift Valley. I spoke to Amos from Baringo.
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently to add more numbers? Because there are those that are saying we don't expect anything from Rift Valley that is under lock and key, under Jubilee's firm grip.
No, I think that is a mistaken notion that the people are under lock and key. That is, if the dynamics have changed, you can see what has happened even in the current nominations. You get people saying, no, we are going to independent. These other groups are saying, no, we are going to Jubilee. Others are saying, we are going to ODM. All this shows that we are dealing with a new generation who are now issue-oriented and they are seeing things differently. They are no longer keen on who is at the top, but they want change. Even if it is not going to have much, but they want change for the sake of change, some of them. That is now what is likely to change the scenario which they have been using for many years to hold people captive.
Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto has given a projection of close to 1 million plus votes. What would you say would be your projection, what NASA might harvest in Rift Valley in terms of votes?
In terms of votes, because the challenges the members, the Rift Valley people have faced, as far as you remember, agriculture, the way is the backbone of our people. When they was applied with fake fertilizer, which ended up not producing enough food, all this has made our people to rethink about the Jubilee strategy. So now, as we speak, most of those who have been doing their business and succeeding, and they are now facing challenges, have decided to change to see how they can get on the other side. So I am expecting we are likely to get more than 1 million votes. Yeah.
Sawa. Thank you very much. Be careful as you get down. And now I'll talk to Homa Bay woman representative Gladys Wanga. The day is here. It's very huge for ODM. You've been with ODM for a while. You've been very vocal campaigning for this party. Eventually, your party leader has been given the mantle. What is the game plan?
We are very excited and grateful as a party that we have had the opportunity for our party leader to be the one flying the flag. We are very humbled, Daemba, because we know that our party leader is only a first among equals. Now we have today, with nomination of the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, we have to hit the road because we have to get the 10 million strong. So it means mobilization door to door. It means mobilization village to village. constituency to constituency. So there is a lot of work ahead in consolidating our strongholds, in healing the party after the nomination, because we know that there are a lot of mixed feelings right now because of people who might have lost nomination, who might feel unfairly treated. So we have to really reconcile the party, bring people together so that we can move forward together in consolidating the votes. Because we have to work on matters of voter turnout, which is what we want to really engineer, and people have to feel motivated and excited sufficiently to come out and to get other people out to vote.
There are those that will argue that this will be a closely contested election, and there could be a possibility of no candidate amassing 50+1 and therefore rolling over to a runoff. How is ODM prepared for that? Because by and large, ODM seems to be carrying the heaviest responsibility in delivering this crucial vote.
You know, we have learned our lessons from 2013, and we know we are working on two issues. And the third one we have already worked on, but we are still continuing to work on, which is ensuring that IBC delivers a credible election. And that is why we are really opposed to IBC trying to appeal the ruling that constituency numbers must be final during the election. So that is one area. Then we have to work on issues of voter protection. There are many areas in 2013 where we got votes, but those votes were never counted because some places our agents were not as active. So we are working on an agent system. We are working on the system of adopting a polling station. We are getting people to adopt polling stations to ensure that that polling station has agents and any vote cast in our favor is counted. Then we are also working on the issue of voter turnout. Some of our strongholds had much lower voter turnout, that we are working on higher voter turnout. We worked very hard during the voter registration to ensure that we got as many of our people as possible to register. So we are very confident that we will get not just 50+1, but 70+1.
Thank you very much. We'll be engaging you as the day progresses, because now we have to hand over to Linda for 1 o'clock news, the news center. Linda, I think that is what we've been able to gather from the leaders, the NEC members. I'm in an area that has been designated for NEC members. I can see the chairman at some point far, then Zani at the Secretary General. I think we'll be talking to them at 1 o'clock. For now, Linda, over to you.
So, Duncan, do we have an idea of what time essentially this thing is going to begin? Hi, Emba, can you hear me? Hi,
yes,
Emba.
Linda.
Oh, okay, so do we have an idea of what time this will start?
Yes, I've been told, as I mentioned earlier, the delay has been occasioned by the thorough security checks that have been mounted out there. But again, we understand whether they'll be done or not by 2 p.m. is when we expect the party leader for ODM and the NASA presidential flag bearer, Raila Odinga, to arrive here. So I think from 1 o'clock or 1:30, the program might get underway officially. Linda.
Okay, Duncan Haimba from Kasarani Stadium, thank you so much for speaking to us. Of course, he'll be linking up with our Sophia Wanuna as well, who's coming in on desk. But for now, let me bring you up to speed with some breaking news you're getting in our studio. The Political Parties Tribunal has nullified Wavinya Ndeti's Machakos nomination win. We are getting that report right now in our studio. The Political Parties Tribunal has nullified Wavinya Ndeti's Machakos nomination win. Wiper has now been ordered to repeat the nominations in 48 hours. You remember she won the Wiper Party ticket for the Machakos County Governor's seat alongside her deputy. All right, so she beat Deputy Governor Bernard Kiala in virtually all polling stations, but you also do know that Kiala went to court and obtained court orders to stop the Machakos nomination. So what you're hearing right now is that Political Parties Tribunal has nullified Wavinya Ndeti's Machakos nomination win. So Wiper has been ordered to repeat the nomination in about 48 hours. So before we wrap this up, allow me to go to Kisumu, where the incumbent Governor Jack Ranguma supporters have been protesting over the party primaries, saying he needs to be given the party ticket. Let's listen into what happened. So those are pictures that we received today. What happened in Kisumu a couple of minutes ago. Supporters of incumbent Governor Jack Ranguma protesting over the party primaries. Remember, he was trounced by Senator Peter Anyang' Nyong'o in the party primaries. His supporters seemingly not happy.
You know, we voted peacefully, very peacefully, and people were people required, or we were expecting a positive.
All right, so that is what happened in Kisumu earlier, a couple of hours ago. So in studio, it would be interesting to get the final comment before we pave way for Sophia Wanuna. Let's take a look at what has just happened with the Political Parties Tribunal nullifying Wavinya Ndeti's Machako's win. Hesbon, quickly before we wrap this up.
Well, I think because the nomination itself was shrouded in a lot of issues. There was a court order stopping it and stuff like that. The fact that, you know, the party leader in Wiper was in support of Honorable Wavinya Ndeti, then Machakos Senator was rooting for Kiala. I think it's only fair that we have another primary, and from where I see it, it won't change much of the outcome that we got in the first primaries, because I see Honorable Wavinya Ndeti winning, and it's only prudent that he wins and get it on a clean slate without any issues surrounding her win.
Okay, Kipto, in 30 seconds.
The main reason why you see that happening is because of the high stakes involved. If you could see the incumbent Governor Mutua commenting about Wiper primaries, that tells you the high stakes. And again, as my colleague has said, you also bring in the concept or the idea behind Kiala. In this case, Kiala was a candidate supported by Mudhama. And for quite some time, you haven't seen Mudhama coming out strongly on matters Wiper. So the high-stakes nature of the contest brought out that. And I also think the number of votes that were said to have been won by Wavinya again becomes... So when you mix all those issues, you understand why the matter ended up at the tribunal. And I think the party leader was unsuccessful in trying to bring them together in terms of Kiala. Even doing the nomination, I think, it was more or less like an olive offer from Kalonzo, telling Kiala that we haven't given out a direct ticket.
But we can participate.
We can participate. So I think that is the basis.
Hesbon Owila, political communications scholar, Joshua Kipto, advocate of the High Court as well, but very well versed with political issues in the country. Thank you so much for joining us on News Center.